Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. By Jax and Aurelia. Jax and Aurelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it. Jax and Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like Brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now, fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and you're listening to episode number 230 of the Trinity Force Podcast. We are here with patch 5.2 rundown for this evening. Joined by 4 great people. Daze is here.
Hi.
Punch.
Hey everybody.
Chira.
Hello.
DeClaude.
Hi. I knew I was going to be called next.
Beating me before the punch. Wait, he didn't beat me before the punch, though. Damn it!
I will not be a part of your bad puns.
I should have saved that pun for when it actually happened. I'm so mad at myself. As I was saying, I was like, "This could be."
Leave it to the
Wait. You're only 145 pounds, right?
Punches, yes.
So
I haven't weighed myself in a while. I could be 150.
So I could roll you up and spike the punch then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right to do that. Punch next
If
week.
you gave him a haircut, you could call
Let's
him a
play
punch bowl.
football. A punch bowl.
The punch bowl. Hey, Punch. Next week, can we get you to bring a scale into your bedroom, stand on it, and point the camera at it so we can actually see how much you weigh?
If people
That's so
really care
weird.
that
Put him
much,
on the spot,
why
Adam,
not?
please.
It's not
I
weird.
doubt they care. I really doubt they care, but if they do, then all right.
In terms of in all for fairness and equality, you can do it 2 days. You can.
Oh yeah, we'll just everyone do it. Let's just all of us.
If you don't have one, ask
It's
Cassiopeia.
a
if you have
weird
some
episode already.
Yeah, ask Cassiopeia for the
Thanks,
scale.
DeClaude.
Thanks, DeClaude.
Yeah,
I was
you're
going to ask Nami.
Or Hector. We can keep going. All right.
So we had 2 donations come in this last week. Nicholas, he donated $10 to the podcast. Just said great podcast, guys. I like it quite a bit. So thank you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks,
And-
Nick. We like you quite a bit.
Thank you.
The Lanzolini donated $13.37, and he wrote this really long piece about what he wants us to do, and I'm not sure if I should do this contest or not. He basically wants people to donate based on if they're Horde or Alliance, and the winner gets something specific, so I think I need to flesh out the details, but you know what? If you guys want to donate based on Horde and Alliance, because if you don't know, the Lanzolini, he is part of the World of Warcraft guild we picked up. They stream every Tuesday and Thursday night on the Trinity Force Podcast, twitch.tv/T-Force Podcast. They are, I think, 7 of 8 in normal and 2 of 8 in heroic right now, high mall. So they're streaming, they're doing big progression. If you want to go join Lightbringer Alliance side, message the Lanzolini in game, go check out wow.trinityforcepodcast.com or trinityforcepodcast.com/wow. It'll redirect to their website. They are trying to pick up a ton of you people to raid. They need a bunch of people to raid. Like there's these guys who have jobs like we do, and they're doing it for fun, and they really want to help grow a World of Warcraft Trinity Force Network community. So
Cool.
yeah, a lot of fun. It's great. And there has been what I think has been really fun with the Trinity Force Network right now is that on /r or on Reddit, so /r/T-Force Network, there has been a lot of discussion lately, and we've started something new. Lanzifer, our producer, has started a weekly discussion thread on an item, and he started with Ginsu's Rageblade. He came up to me, actually, funny story, he came up to me and said, I want to start a weekly discussion on a certain item. We'll list the item, we'll list the pros and the cons, why it's good, bad, whatever. We can have this big discussion about it. And I said, that sounds great. Just never bring up Frozen Mallet.
You know that was
I
built.
think he's going to bring it up next.
That was built last week in LCS.
I know.
By Anar.
I know.
Were you aware? Mm-hmm. I believe they won that game too. Probably because of the Frozen Mallet.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
I mean, it has to be. There's no way
I
it
think
could
all you've
not
accomplished with this is that tomorrow afternoon, when this is released in MP3, you're gonna have like 18 Frozen Mallet threads started. I think that's all you've done.
No,
I'm gonna go start one.
Days, what happened is you started it.
Reddit.com/r/T-Force Mallet.
I'm
You know how
gonna go.
Optimus Tom has that dancing Poppy subscriber
Oh my god, we should make Adam a
lower
frozen
image?
mallet one.
Yes, Adam needs a frozen
Don't
mallet.
tell the Lanzolini that,
Stripper.
please.
You need
For
a
the love of
frozen
God, no.
Amazing.
You need
Oh
a
my
scrolling
God.
I Heart Frozen Mallet next to your name. That's perfect. It's exactly what you
I'm
need.
the Optimus Tom of frozen mallets. God damn it. Fun fact, one thing before we get into patch 5.2, days.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you this yet, but on YouTube, somebody messaged on YouTube and said, "Why does Days say? Why does she do
I saw.
A's?" Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah, so I grew up in Boston and I have an accent, but I try to hide it. So every once in a while I'll be really bad at hiding it and it'll come out, and that's what it is. So I apologize. It's kind of like in and out. So
She doesn't pronounce her ultimates.
it happens.
It's really hard
And
to hide that
God is
accent,
a
I assume.
band from everything.
I was getting yelled at last night because I kept talking about the Ka. We
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking about the Boston accent. I kept talking. We were driving.
Havadian.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
and she does it perfectly, just like without a beat. So, how deflated are you going to feel after the Super Bowl this weekend, Days?
I don't
I see what you
I
did
don't
there.
even want to talk about the Patriots right now because I just really want the investigation to be over. The whole deflated balls thing, and all jokes aside on that. But yeah, I just want that to be over because I really want to know what they find in that. So I wish they had released that before the Super Bowl, but of course they're not going to. So I'm excited about it, but we'll see.
Chicken wings and
That I'm excited about. Yeah.
chicken wings and beer and all the good stuff this weekend. So hopefully all you guys are paying attention to the Super Bowl and are ready to listen to our patch 5.2 rundown. Those notes came out yesterday. We are going to talk about those right now. If you were looking for the Lola discussion, that's coming on Monday. Conspiracy Gate, Twitter,
Just keep pushing it back, Paul. Just keep
T-Force
pushing it
Gate.
back.
Call it T-Force
Eventually,
Gate.
everyone will forget about it.
Yeah.
Everyone will just magically forget about what happened last Saturday.
I want to talk all about what happened last Saturday.
It'll go the way of the Zyrus might discuss.
Yeah, right. T-Force Gate, he's hiding it. He doesn't want to talk about it. No, patch 5.2 notes came out, and the game takes precedence over anything that we have done, and all that. So we're going to talk about it right now. We had talked about Deathfire Grasp on episode 229. Obviously, that has been removed, and I'm going to actually let DeClaude talk about this piece because we found it very humorous.
Yeah, I when I looked at the notes this morning, I was like, this is very familiar. But the very first paragraph on Deathfire Grasp, it says, is gone, sad face, says, our initial goal with Deathfire Grasp was to make a tank-busting item that could do exactly that. Bust down tanks when they're knocking on the front door. After the introduction of Leandri's Torment, however, tank busting was replaced with tank burning. And instead, Deathfire Grasp became the item for assassins to stack another nuke spell on top of their already burst heavy kits. That sounded very familiar to something that happened on Monday. I don't know.
I'm going to go out
podcast.
on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Riot stole our discussion exactly.
Podcast
Who alerted
live.
you?
And
Like,
just
you know
typed
what?
it up into here.
Here's our context.
Yep.
That was
They
beautiful.
they couldn't figure out what to say. It's no surprise that this gets released. The information got released the day after we recorded the show.
Yeah, right.
So
It was great. It just made me feel good that we
coincidence
actually hit the nail on the
or
head.
planned all along, Riot? Balls in your court.
Wow, I love all the...
Many
Wait.
conspiracies today.
What's this assigned? Sotir? No. Okay, just making sure. Anyway, but yeah, Deathfire Grasp has gone the way of the birds.
I've been
It's
really...
gone.
Days mentioned Kha'Zix. Just and when we were talking about champions, you just kind of mentioned Kha'Zix. We never mentioned it. We never talked about it again. And I started thinking about it more and more for the last 2 days. And I'm like, wow, that's a really good point. Why is Kha'Zix not going to come back in the mid lane now that DFG is gone and now we're going to see... And some of the other assassins got nerfed. Like, we're going to talk about it later. Ahri, it's more sustained damage Ahri rather than burst Ahri. And Fizz is a burst mage if he hits his ultimate. Otherwise, it's kind of like this weird sustained damage. Well, we'll get to that. But so why is Kha'Zix not coming back? Yasuo and Zed, of course, is still there.
Well, they've already said that they're going to end up tweaking Zed because he's going to be
And
overwhelming.
he did get tweaked. In this
He got
match as
tweaked
well.
already in this one. Yep. So, but Veigar, Katarina, and Mordekaiser, they hinted 5.3. We'll have to wait for, but they are going to be
This is
help.
a huge undertaking. Anytime they remove or add an item in, it's just a huge ordeal to try to like rebalance everyone and change things like that. So yeah, it's gonna take a little while for them to figure it out.
Well, one thing they mentioned in the patch rundown is that I think they're more concerned with wave clearing farming mid laners coming back, like Ziggs. So I think if Kha'Zix were to try and come back in the mid lane, but Ziggs made a resurgence and heroes like him, he would probably have a hard time surviving.
He would have to evolve W to just keep up with it.
Yeah, to wave clear.
Here's my thing with when you go like and you start talking about like Kha'Zix, like he has great damage on Dragon. Dragon's such an effective, such a big objective right now. He farms well, he has decent sustain, and he has great roam. And when you get rid of a lot of those other assassins and things like that, they were usually the high utility, big roam potential, and Kha'Zix is still going to have that. And a lot of the people that he had trouble with fighting in mid lane were the people who built DFG, and now those people aren't going to be there anymore. They're not going to be as prominent. They're not going to be as big of a problem. So I think that he just has a lot of potential to come back, and I don't think a lot of people have played against him in a while. So if you bring him back into mid lane, nobody's going to know how to play against it for a little while.
Right.
Personally, I don't think really DFG was great and all, but even for the like Ahri's, for example, it wasn't. Sure, it's great charm DFG and then her whole thing, but it wasn't a core necessity for her to have.
I think on a lot of people there were always two ways to build it, and a lot of people built it as like the core item on her.
I completely disagree with that. And
Yeah,
I mean
think
Ahri and like LeBlanc are my two most played mid characters, and that there's basically the route of, oh, I'm gonna go get Zhonya's first because I'm behind, or I'm gonna rush Deathfire Grasp because I'm going to kick everybody's face in.
No, you're not though. You're gonna get Morello's.
Well, that was like maybe in the most recent patch, and even still, if you were ahead enough, you would just go and get that DFG.
No, see, there were always two ways of going Ahri, and the sustain damage build was always the least common, and it was generally less successful than the assassin build. And usually, you'd see those DFGs built really early, as long as you were ahead. And I mean, I was learning Ahri, I was watching a lot of streams, I was watching a lot of guides, and it was like, what you strive to do is you strive to farm well enough to go back and get your needless on your first back, and that was what your goal was.
Well, and
you just wanted to go back with that 16.
Don't get me wrong, Ahri was great with DFG, but I don't think she needed it to continue to be the prominent self that she was. Because if all you had to do was land a charm and a Q, a charm Foxfire Q, and you were doing enough damage to chunk somebody down at least 3/4 life. Now, that extra quarter life could be argued that DFG made up for that with that extra damage, but in a team scenario, you didn't need DFG to be effective on Ahri. You weren't, you were charming somebody, giving somebody out of place, and everybody was ready to jump on that person right away.
I really think you would, and I'm not even making a joke of this, I think you would be surprised at the difference that item makes.
Oh, I'm sure it would be, absolutely.
It's enough for them to remove it.
Yeah,
exactly. She was one of the people that you could go an alternative build on. Like, on LeBlanc, you did always build like on a lot of those other champions. And Ahri, you could, if you got behind, you could go more of a sustained damage poke champ. But that wasn't the optimal build on her.
It's funny you were saying that we would always build DFG on LeBlanc, and the more I think about this conversation, like, there's a lot of these champions I wouldn't build first by DFG on. It was just something that made their kit more powerful by picking up as a second or third. It made them so powerful that they could not be dealt with. Like, LeBlanc would build a Morellonomicon when that was the double Morellonomicon was super powerful, or she would build an Athenes into a Chalice because it was all about wave clearing and then roaming.
You picked it up, but you wouldn't rush it.
The other thing is too, you could also you wouldn't even be rushing Morellos or Athenes or anything on either of LeBlanc or Ahri, because you could just pull that double Doran's ring and you'd be okay on mana until you got blue buff. And the thing is, if you were building all that extra AP earlier
properly,
and you can get that extra kill, like the DFG has always been about, okay, I'm gonna go get this item before they change the cooldown on it, so where it was basically up like every 30 seconds, and you could just use it whenever you wanted to, which was ridiculous. You would get it because they show up in lane, you murdered them, and then you roamed and you used it again.
Right.
Now, when they changed it, It was the difference between, oh, I roamed bot, and yes, I land my charm, but we didn't get the kill, to I roamed bot, I landed charm and DFG'd them, and it was a guaranteed kill and 2 assists.
I don't think there's any wrong way to build one of these champions. Like Day's saying, you could build Ahri DFG first. I think that's a great, fantastic build. And for if you play the champion in the way you want to be a murder machine, DFG was the way to rush on those champions.
It's what made the problem with GFG, because if you got ahead, if you got wicked ahead of lane and you didn't buy DFG, it was a really silly thing to do, because with that DFG you could just wipe someone off the board. But that DFG is what put you way over into the unstoppable, no counterplay sort of situation. So that's where the problem is, that if you got so far ahead that you could buy that straight out or rush that item, then you were so far ahead that nobody could stop you.
Right.
And if you're that far ahead to buy that item, why wouldn't you want to overkill somebody every time you got the chance to do it?
Right.
Because that's
why
just
would
money
you
in
go
the bank.
something passive like Athene's? Like, why would you do that if you could just wipe someone off the board?
Right.
But with it gone, I don't think it's going to kill Ahri and make her useless.
I don't think it will either.
Well, okay,
I think she's going to be a different.
Let's talk about
champion
Ahri
now.
then.
Yeah. I was going to say, now that DFG is dead, maybe we should talk about the changes they made to Ahri.
Right.
in its absence.
Yeah, we were just kind of doing the whole, let's recap what we talked about last episode and get into a little bit of argument about it, which is...
And yell at each other.
Well, yeah, nothing wrong with that. I love it.
We're very good at yelling at each other.
Right. Yeah. So there are other champions that it is more, like Veigar, for example. You blow your load and then you're waiting and useless until cooldowns come up. Him, it was much more effective on, and he's going to feel the pain a lot more, I think.
Well, you know, he's so small that you should just forget about him, okay? So, Q Ahri Orbit Deception has now been changed. It actually has a new passive on it where Ahri now gains a massive movement speed boost while her orb is traveling that rapidly decays over time. I haven't played with this. I actually don't know how quick the movement speed boost is.
I've seen it. It's a significant jump.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
Now, does it happen as soon as you hit Q, or does it have to hit a minion for you?
Yep, and as as soon as it hit Q, and as it's traveling back to you, you lose speed. So you gradually decrease back to your original speed, but you can do it nowhere near anybody, and you'll still get the movement speed on it.
Now, is it fast enough that I could Q through a wave, make it to the other side before the ball comes back, or can I make it like halfway down? Like, if we're talking like a circle, am I making halfway through the circle or a quarter way through the circle before the movement speed decreases?
I don't know. I didn't analyze it like that.
Slightly slower than Jinx's Get Excited.
Okay.
And it doesn't last quite as long.
No,
but it's like a little just burst.
This might be an alternate form of initiation for her, maybe in lane at least, since there's not a huge reason to use E anymore, or E first anymore, since the changes they made to that.
Right.
I'm thinking the movement speed on Q could allow her to reposition for a better charm.
Right. It'd give you enough time to move around that minion wave or get past the tank or whatever to end up grabbing somebody.
So now we move into Foxfire, and back in season 2 that Ahri came out, or was it season 3? I want to say it was season 3. Season 3 Ahri came out, because when she would first come out, a lot of people would actually max Foxfire because of the champions that were there. I don't know. It's been so long, I don't remember. But yeah, it was a single target. It always hit the person as long as they were next to you. So people would max Foxfire. Now my question is, with the E change and the Foxfire, which I'm about to talk about, could we see a Foxfire or a couple points dumped into that and using Q to reposition for Foxfire damage? Now, Foxfire W. Foxfire's targeting system has been improved and will now attempt to acquire a new target. The original target is going to die from other Foxfires, which is great. You're welcome, Lichbane Ahri. Casting Foxfire no longer interferes with Ahri's basic attack animation, so you can use it for a Lichbane proc. Base damage for Foxfire has been increased. It used to be 40, 65, 90, 115, 140. It is now 50, 80, 110, 140, 170. Now, this is my point where Foxfire could be a couple-point dump early. And it's just slightly reduced the time between the spell cast and missile firing, and they fixed a rare bug with it that none of us really care about.
That's actually really interesting with the Lichbane. I like how they snuck the Lichbane thing in there, because now with the speed with her Q, she might be able to get in range. Yeah, you could run up Lichbane and then get out, and you're fine.
They're already looking at replacements for Deathfire Grasp here. Go with the Lichbane build, I guess. But fantastic Foxfire. The first note, targeting system improved if they're going to die. I'm kind of worried about the programming behind that. Like, what if they get a heal in there?
That's exactly it. They barrier. Like, what... They barrier when they should have died. Like the moment the one fireball moves there and the other two hit minions, and you're just like,
Curious to see how this works in game. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about charm, and then we'll go back to
I feel like I would rather have
Foxfire.
the overkill sometimes. But
Right. Charm removed. Charm targets no longer take plus 20% damage. If you remember a while ago, they changed her so that Charm now deals extra 20% damage because they removed damage from other abilities. The damage in Charm has actually been increased slightly. It was 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. It is now 60, 95, 130, 165, 200 within a 0.5 AP ratio scaling from 0.35.
Big buff there.
So that's a fairly large buff. Now, my point here being that if you are in a lane that you don't have to heavily farm with Q, is there merit to dumping some early points in the W to use your Q for a speed increase to land a charm for extra W Foxfire damage if it's going to prioritize champions?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it looks like the buff to W's damage exponentially grows from 10 to 30 based on how much you rank it. So it might behoove you to get another 2 or 3 points in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's totally legitimate. As you said before, when W was sometimes maxed first when she was released, that was usually against melee champions that she would go against.
Right.
I remember specifically a long time ago, I would play a little bit of mid lane. I'd play into Ahri, and if you played against Kassadin, who was a popular mid pick at the time, you would definitely level W first, because if he went aggressive on you, you would just pop W and charm, and you would do a ton of damage to him, and you can kick him out of lane that way. So I think W could definitely be an optimal choice for first level, but I'm not very familiar with mid lane right now, so I'm going to be tentative on that statement.
And a lot of this comes up in the air with how is mid lane going to evolve with DFG removal too.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah.
To go back to like the Q, and it seems like such a small thing to add, like movement speed, but the play changes that it can add and outplays. Like people, especially as you get better and play against better people, they'll dodge your rebound of your Q, and now you can reposition really easily to try to hit them with it again. Or, imagine how like difficult she's going to be to catch when you're
Escape
behind her.
ganks.
Right, and you just turn around and you Q and you run, and then on top of that you have Spirit Rush. Like, it was really hard to gank an Ahri to begin with. It was really difficult, and now it's just almost impossible at this point.
I like that you bring up the rebound on Q, because I think a lot of people forget about that. One of the advanced tactics that you'll find as you become a better player with these champions it's the true damage, and it's the fact that you reposition those skill shots that come back like a Sivir Q.
Right.
You find yourself repositioning to make sure it hits secondly.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you're moving more quickly, you have a better chance, potentially, of hitting that second Q on the way back, or that return.
By the way, it looks like someone in Twitch chat just linked the video to Ahri's movement speed, so you can get an idea what it looks like.
I'll put that in the document when this goes out live. So if you're listening to MP3, go check out the RSS feed or the website at trinityforcepodcast.com. You'll be able to see the YouTube. We'll go ahead and move on to Akali. She also got a change. I like what they go on here about Akali, and they bring a paragraph, and they say that, to be blunt, Akali's a prime example of an assassin with low counterplay, largely due to reliability and target selection. And that if she got even remotely ahead, which was basically one kill at this point with Akali.
There are times you could shut down an Akali in lane. She roam, picks up one kill, and she's back in the game.
Yeah, because she gets that one item. She completes that one item.
Yep.
So to fix this, they changed it so that Crescent Slash, her E, no longer detonates Mark of the Assassin, which
That's huge.
It's huge.
Slows her burst.
She has the melee dude
well,
to do it.
that's the biggest thing. You can't just get in range to E.
You can't
drop your Q. You have to move. You have to move closer to blow them up.
Well, one of Akali's trades and lanes was the Q. Wait for the cooldown of Q to come back up. Auto you QE, and you would do this massive burst of damage because you get two of your Q procs off. And now she's unable to do that. She does a little less damage without having E thrown in there, which is, maybe 30, 50 damage. I don't actually have the damage of E in front of me, but that could be the difference in a trade early for her. And it's definitely the difference later in the game when she can blow somebody up with the scaling on the Mark of the Assassin. I
like how you bring up the comboing of the two procs on the Mark of the Assassin, because that's 100% what it is.
Yeah, and even late game, you used to QER real quick and so much damage. And now you have to get an auto in there. You can't you have to stay in range and be a little bit more vulnerable for a little while before
you have to
do that
commit longer.
first.
You got to QR auto E pretty much.
Yep.
And I like how they changed this. I've been asking for since our Akali came out. Our Shadow Dance range 800 to 700. So they reduced the OP range on that Shadow Dance.
Yeah, that thing was crazy.
Slightly, but it was just enough to where you couldn't, as another mage, trade without her getting on top of you.
I was about to say they gave her basically an offensive flash with a bunch of damage added onto it that gets you immediately to somebody, and you can use it multiple times.
Yep.
So I think that's what they mean when they talk about, or part of what they mean when they talk about her low counterplay is that a lot of her abilities are just point and click. They're not skill shots. You don't really have an opportunity to dodge them. So if she wants to shadow dance you all day so you can never escape, that's what she's going to do. And you have to cry.
And you have to take it, right?
Which is why she's in band prison right now, or was in 5.1.
Yeah, she might fall out of band prison. You know who might go in band prison is Annie for support now, because we've seen Annie support coming back because Janna's being played quite heavily, and Annie does a very good job of initiating and countering Janna.
Of murdering Janna where she stands.
And now that she's getting a weird buff, but it's actually quite interesting. So Molten Armor E, the magic resistance bonus has been decreased. It was 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It is now 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So 10 across all ranks.
That's to set up the next change.
That is set up the next change because if you popped an E in lane, you gained enough magic resistances that you potentially couldn't get burst down as hard, as hard as a squishy little child should. When you slap them, they should fall on the ground and cry. Annie did not cry. Instead, she made you cry because she dropped Tibbas in your face. Now she's gonna drop Tibbas on being dazed with Tibbas.
Shut up.
Annie's from Boston. I get it now.
New, don't run from bears when Annie casts Molten Shield. Tibbas gains 300 bonus movement speed, decaying over 0.75 seconds. Tibbas now also receives the benefit Molten Shield, and Annie casts it while he's up. Tibbas' collision radius has been reduced to let him move past minions easier.
That second part where he gets the Molten Shield, I think that's why they nerfed a little bit of the resistances on it.
I like how they say the don't run from bears thing, but like as soon as I see this, I'm like, run from bears. Run much faster than you were before.
Please run from bears.
Yeah.
If you've played against an Annie ever, you've noticed that Tibbers is he's pretty easy to kite. After you used him, he didn't really do anything, and there's a lot of bad Addies out there who don't know how to control Tibbers at all. And to do this,
he has a AoE damage around him for just existing.
Honestly, this change, and this probably wasn't what they're going for, but this actually helps people out that have Tibbers, because Tibbers is going to attack whatever it can, and it's going to stay on the target as long as they press E at some point, because it's going to give movement speed increase, and it's going to be harder to kill, because it's going to gain the Molten Shield. It's going to gain 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 armor.
So if you thought he could tank turrets in the past, he can tank them better.
You know what? This change, and Morello touched a little bit on it on the patch rundown if you guys haven't watched it, but it's pretty much true. Annie, this change to Annie is kind of hitting her identity. She's all about Tibbers. It's not just let's do a numbers buff to bring her into range with everybody else. Why would you pick her over someone else? It's for the diversity. You pick her because you have a big bear that's flaming and burns and kills you when he comes near you, and these changes kind of play to how she's supposed to be played, or how Riot wants her identity.
Yeah, they're actually making the bear somewhat useful, because before it was only about the AoE stun. That's all you cared about. After Tibbers was out, no one's like, oh, well, it's Tibbers.
And Tibbers take turrets.
Just slowly stroll away from Tibbers because he's not going to do anything to us. But actually, he's got a lot of power to him on the AoE damage in melee range, and his auto attacks can definitely be accounted for. So
I would like to see them kind of sap some power from her other abilities and put them on Tibbers and make her, like DeClaude said, I kind of like the idea that this one champion is all about her identity and lore.
You'll just have so when she casts Q, and this is just something I wish they would do, remove some of the damage from Q, and then when she ults, Tibbers just pukes fire every time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When Tibbers falls down, he's shooting Qs out of his mouth in every direction.
You mean like in the that one cinematic they did?
Sure.
Prior to the latest one, where he's thinking like puking flames all over the place.
Phoenix Udyr fireballs shooting out everywhere.
I am in for this. I am totally. You know what? Make her the new pet champion, where she drops Tibbers at any point she wants, and Tibbers now can shoot Qs and Ws. I'm in. Let's go.
Well, you see this giant flaming timbers that Tryndamere was running away from. And they're all scared. Oh my god, look at this giant flaming bear! But in the game, you're like, yeah, okay, just let him smack.
Screw that
me
guy. I'm
going
gonna kill him
Annie
for 50 gold.
Right.
Well, moving on, Azir, he just had some.
Back,
I'm going back. I didn't realize you wanted something. I'm back. I'm back.
All right. Man, you didn't let me talk about Annie.
I'm sorry. I thought we had covered everything because you look like you wanted to.
Adam.
I really
no,
do
I do want to go over a couple things. You guys did cover most of it. I do want to just cover when you do. Oh my god, I lost what I was gonna say. I'm bad. Okay, first of all, I do think that Annie has a really good spot in top lane, and I want to talk about that on a different episode.
I kind of like this idea. I think I'm in here with you on this one. Like
this
solo
Molten
Annie
Shield does affect her top lane just a little bit. So just in future reference, like I do want to talk about that in some episodes, so that will affect it. And anyone who is playing it, if they are playing it, then that's going to affect you. So just keep that in mind. And then the other one, we didn't talk about it at all, but this Dire Tibbers, the collision radius, while it will help you move through minions easier, and that is a thing, anyone who's played a lot of Annie and actually uses Tibbers for something knows that one of your best things that you can do with him is stop someone from chasing you by blocking the champion. So it will make it a little bit easier for them to get around Tibbers if you're trying to use him to body block. So just keep that in mind as well. So sorry, that's all.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'd like to eventually talk about top Annie. I've never actually played it. I've seen it played in the LCS and IEM, and obviously got shit on because pros, it's pretty easy to shit on those champions that take time to get up. But I think in solo queue, top Annie can definitely do some work with some people. So I think that's a good topic for probably Wednesday's episode. Make sure you put that in a document, Days. Azir, he got a change in this patch where you look at this, you're like, these aren't that big of changes, but coming from somebody who plays Azir, Azir is now, I'm letting you guys know, is out of ban prison. He's back, and I'm going to be
still really good.
Who's banned prison?
He's out of banned prison now. This guy is going
Who is banning Azir?
You guys were globally.
A lot of people
you mean we weren't letting you play Azir?
No.
Yeah.
Adam means that in particular, we wouldn't let him play Azir.
Yeah.
Well, that too. But also in solo queue, he's been banned a lot, and in higher elos, he's really, really powerful. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if we let Adam play him in solo queue every day, and that's what people rated him on, no one would ever ban him.
Oh no, please ask Chira about my plays the other night. I fucking played a mean goddamn Azir.
The other night, Adam did play Azir very well.
he probably had loot.
I'll believe it when I see it.
It was also. I mean, it's like what 13 bug fixes later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, no, the biggest change out of this is the range on the indicator for where you move the queue has been changed, so it actually shows the 875 range. But the big change here is the sand formation change, where there was actually a red post about this before. So what changes is now that the nearest soldier or when there are 3 soldiers out, Conquering Sands will always move the nearest soldier to where the player clicks. And if you had played Azir previously, it was the first soldier you put out would always move to where we click. So if you put the first soldier out to your far left because you were there before you moved, and then that soldier took forever. There's a travel time for that soldier to make it to where you clicked. So you wouldn't hit with all 3 soldiers at the same time. It would hit 2, then 1. You know what I'm saying? That person can make it out. Now, I don't know if this change incorporates what I read on the forums, but they are talking about, based on the number of soldiers you have out, the soldiers will move differently based on the soldiers you have out. Basically, it moves more like you think it should, where your first soldier should always move first, your second soldier should always move second, your third soldier should always move last. Now, it's like if you have 3 soldiers out, the right soldier will always move first. There's a whole red post about it. It came out like 3 weeks ago. I'm going to find it and link it so you guys can see it. Hopefully, this is just one step toward making Azir soldiers actually work like you think they should work in the game.
Have you played it yet? Does it feel better?
I have not had because it just came out today.
Right, and they were down pretty much all day.
Yeah, and I've been at work all day. I have not played it. However, when I do play it before, it was
it felt clunky.
It felt clunky. It was just kind of annoying. Like you didn't really notice it, but you knew something wasn't working properly.
Off, yeah.
You can make it work. Obviously, they're making it work in the LCS, so this just makes Azir better because you should know what your soldiers are doing when you're using them, and a good Azir will always know where all 3 of his soldiers are at all times.
Cool.
Cassiopeia, we saw her play a lot in the first week of the LCS. We've had some people write in about her. She has some changes because she is very powerful when she gets going. I think that's really the mantra of Cassiopeia, as she's always been super powerful when she's going. This one, they're actually targeting her early game a little bit as well, where Twin Fangs, the mana cost has been significantly increased and the damage of Noxus Blast, or excuse me, not damage. The mana cost of Noxus Blast has been increased at later levels. So Noxus Blast went from mana cost of 40, 45, 50, 55, 60 to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So we gained 20 mana at max rank.
And considering all these abilities are spammable, that's huge.
You can yourself fast, yep.
But Twin Fang, which you can spam as long as somebody is poisoned, has had its mana cost significantly increase. 35, 45, 55, 65, 75. It is now 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So if you didn't catch those numbers, it went from 35 at rank 1 to 50. That's 15 mana.
More at all ranks, yeah.
So I'm assuming, I don't have it up in front of you, but I'm assuming after 3 Twin Fangs, you're pretty much ooming yourself. Or 3 or 4 Twin Fangs, you're pretty much ooming yourself at level 1 with a rotation of other spells.
It's that trade-off again. Like, she has a stupid strong late game, so she has to have weaknesses somewhere, and this is just going to give you like a little bit of counterplay potential to her in the early game, so you can shut her down.
When Riot reworked her, they said they kind of wanted to move her in the direction of a mage hypercarry, and that's pretty much what she is. So I guess this helps tone her down a little bit, or make some risk to the reward.
Or make her just pay more attention to what she's actually doing rather than, I'm going to spam all of the abilities.
Or make her team give her blue buff.
Right.
Yeah, just nice changes for her. It makes it so she's... something that this is a side to the patch notes is that people complain about changes that get made to champions for pro play, but the difference with pro play and normal play is that pro players will find something that's just a little bit OP and they'll abuse the shit out of it. And that's what they were doing with Cassiopeia.
And for Palpatine.
Yeah. Now this change might not change anything in solo queue because or if it does, it's because the players just had 1,000 games of Cassiopeia. But when you get in pro play and you look at 15 mana, that's the difference between life and death with somebody. So keep that in mind when a lot of these changes go on these patch notes. Is that in pro play, this doesn't affect you in solo queue as much as you think it might. Just
I don't know. That's a lot of mana.
Oh, it is.
People are gonna feel it in solo queue too.
Oh yeah. Let's say you get 3 of those Twin Fangs off with 1 poison in range, which you can spam. That's 45 mana extra right there. So that's huge. That's a full cast in itself that you can't do later on.
Fizz got a change. We talked about it yesterday, sort of, kind of. I had mentioned that Q was getting an increase because I was like side-eyeing it as I was looking at it. Q actually get a decrease. The ability power ratio went down to 0.3. Also, the damage has been significantly reduced at max ranks. It went from 10, 40, 70, 100, 130 to 10, 25, 40, 55, 70. So Q has a significant decrease. There's really no reason to level Q at this point, ever, unless you have to dump points into it. It's your mobility item. Seastone Trident no longer applies grievous wounds. Very big piece to note that he can no longer stop champions like Mundo by just auto-attacking them. Active on hit. Go ahead.
You could potentially take heal to deal with some of his damage.
Yes, absolutely. Active on hit has been changed. It was before 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 with 0.25 ability power magic damage, and now it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 with a no ability power scaling, but it does now do damage based on the percentage of missing health that you have. Now, I think that's a change because I think they're slowly phasing out grievous wounds from this game, as best they can. So giving something a percentage of life damage fixes the grievous wounds. And as we see grievous wounds being removed in this game, I think we're going to see changes to Mundo and the like, where their ultimate doesn't heal as much because there's not a way to reduce the amount of healing. That's just kind of like speculatory.
Not just Mundo, but you have to think about the sustained champs, especially in bot lane. When you think about Soraka and Sona and things like that, like you almost automatically take Ignite over that, against them and things like that. Or Swain, you always take Ignite, or you play someone with, that has grievous wounds on them or something of that nature. So those are just things that they're going to have to take into consideration later on if they are removing all of those damage over time abilities like that.
And something else they're thinking about when they add this missing health, this magic damage part of the on-hit, is they're thinking of what is Fizz going to do when all of his abilities are down and we severely reduced the base damage on Q. What is he going to do? And I think that's what they're trying to help with this W changes. All right, well, they're probably going to be at low health because he used all of his abilities, so now he can just auto-attack them a couple of times and maybe get the killing blow.
That they moved, actually, because W's passive had that health, target missing health, in the damage over time. So they're moving it as a magic damage, boom, right off the bat instead of over 3 seconds. So they removed it from the damage over time with 3 seconds after.
They just front-loaded it.
Burst. Right, they front-loaded it, exactly. And then they nerfed the damage. They still left the damage over time as a flat amount, nerfed by, 10 damage. So instead of 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60.
Right.
Plus 0.45, so it's a slightly better ability power ratio for the dot damage after the fact. But, it's going to hurt a lot less.
So why wouldn't we see on hit top lane Fizz now? Ultimate got changed. It now has a new passive. Fizz damage against the tag champion is now increased by 20% for 6 seconds. Chum the Water is not affected by this bonus. So the Chum the Water is the actual R damage is not affected by the 20%, but everything after the fact.
By on hit, what do you mean? Like
an on hit Blade of the Ruin King style Fizz. Because of this change to W, doing percentage of life damage, now is Fizz a tank buster? Because he has been previously played in the top lane as a teleport.
Health, though.
But yeah,
but you couple that with Blade of the Ruin King, and he's doing percentage of max life and percentage of missing life, meaning he's a tank buster at this point. Because the more damage you're taking, the more damage you're dealing.
But he. Getting in melee range, he's just going to build like straight bruiser and get a Blade of the King?
And he's done it before. Fizz is absolutely. Voyboy did it when Fizz was first out. That's why I wondered now these changes. Could we see it potentially?
You're still going to see the W damage go off because Q for the fact that they haven't said that this change still applies on hit effects anyway. So he's still going to be able to get the W damage off pretty big early. Say you get them low from your entire rotation, if you stick around and WQ them again, even with the damage nerf on his Q, you're going to do a lot of damage still because they're going to be missing health. So
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think the removal of Deathfire Grasp allowed them to do this change. Because with Deathfire Grasp, they would never have put this change on Fizz. Because boom, DFGM and then W.
And the percentage of missing health is always going to be more on a squishy target anyway, because one rotation on a squishy target is going to wipe out a significant more, portion of their health than you would if you did it on a tanky champion. Sure. But I think that this whole, and I know they did mention the counterplay, but that's what this whole thing screams, with being able to dodge the Q damage. Now, before, if you QSS the R, you would still get burst down. If you were an ADC and you QSS that, sure, the fish dropped, but you were still going to die, if he got anywhere close to you. Now, if he loses that 20% damage because you QSS, that's incredibly huge. So you're not just losing the ultimate damage, now he's losing that 20% for all of his other abilities. So it just makes it a lot more feasible to be any other champion playing against him right now.
Yeah, QSS that R is almost as bad as QSSing the R on Z, pretty much.
I'm really curious if this is going to force Fizz out for a little while, and then people are going to suddenly realize, well, Fizz really wasn't as bad as these changes made him out to be. Why aren't we playing a Fizz again?
Right. I think it might require a bit of a change.
People overreact to that all the time absolutely. To patch notes, yeah. So it could be very well. I mean, there's just a lot. It's that spoiled mentality. Everyone's used to playing Fizz and just one-shotting everybody. Now people are gonna be able to flash out of his, or
you mean have
dodge out of
counterplay
his Qs.
to a
yeah,
champion?
They're gonna be able to build an item to get rid of his damage. Oh my gosh, I can't just kill everybody no matter what they have. So some people are gonna overreact to it. Some people will stop playing him. I don't think this takes him off the table in terms of a good champion, but he's not going to be as overbearing and overwhelming as he was. I mean, he's been banned. He's been a candidate for bans for
for a long time.
At least a year.
While.
No,
right.
Because
a long
he's a
time.
pain in the ass to deal with. He's this playful trickster. He's slippery as fuck. He does a lot of damage.
Yeah, you can't catch
And-
him.
Yeah, and
just
he
lose
knows
a dot.
he ignores unit collision in lane. Like there's no other champion in this game that does that.
There was a time, and still kind
Aggro,
of, up
easily.
until this change, I would be so happy if I saw Fizz on my team, just because if I was jungling, I knew that if he landed a shark at all while we were in lane, we were gonna get a kill during a gank.
Yeah.
The other thing was, I hated playing against him, because if I was going into engage and he got that shark off on the AD carry, or he got that shark off on whoever's engaging, he canceled the engage or he murdered the AD carry. And I'm not happy with either of those things.
Well, let's move on from Fizz. Let's talk about Kha'Zix, and we'll talk about Nidalee, and we'll keep going on because there's a Sejuani change I want to get into here, plus some other global changes. Kha'Zix, the tooltip has actually been fixed so that it shows the actual value. There was a bug where the cooldown for Kha'Zix's leap was 2 seconds shorter than intended.
Longer.
It's covered a bug.
Yeah, it was longer than.
Oh yeah, no, it says shorter.
It actually was shorter than it looked like it was.
Right. Yeah, so they just fixed the tooltip on Kha'Zix. Nidalee, there's a change. We had brought this up when Nidalee was first reworked, that we thought Nidalee would be a really, really good jungler. And now that Prowl can be procced on neutral monsters, I think that jungle Nidalee is going to be a solo queue thing.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I've seen it several times in solo queue.
We ran one the other night in a fan game, and he was wrecking
that same guy plays him in fan game. Like, I wouldn't even call him fan game. Like in sport, whoever plays games with Spork and their team speak and whatever, there's a dude who plays almost exclusively Nidalee jungle, and he lights it up almost every time he plays it.
Yeah, it's scary. When it's played correctly, it's hilarious when it's not played correctly. Like, it's really funny. But when it is played correctly, it's really scary. Like, it's not something you want to go against.
Land a Q.
It's something that people are not used to at all, because when they first did her rework and people tried playing her jungle, a lot of people on the team of the Nidalee thought that she was trolling, and they would go crazy. Like, what are you doing? Nidalee can't jungle. What the hell is this? I'm going to report you. So I'll be interested to see if she does become a jungler, how long it'll take people to accept and adapt to this.
The thing to remember if you're picking Nidalee jungle is that you should try to see if you have utility somewhere else on the team, because you offer nothing in terms of utility
you don't have CC, you just throw damage at people.
You are, for all intents and purposes, is an assassin.
Yeah.
You're Master Yi. Like, you need to play as if you were Master Yi, so you need to have some kind of engage. You are not engage.
Yeah, so just be aware and make sure your team's prepared for that, because it's really hard when you have, like, if you have an assassin top and an assassin mid and an assassin jungle, and then...
I'm sorry, Daze.
Right.
We were listening.
How are the team fights going to go?
Is Chira, is that you?
No, that's Daze's cat.
Yeah, I'm having issues.
Okay, I thought that was Chira's cat because he was smiling.
I know it's funny because I feel that pain all the time. That cat, it's weird. The cat actually leaves me alone while I do this show, but if I'm sitting here otherwise, she just bitches at me the whole time.
And we're talking about Nidalee.
Normally she leaves me alone,
perfect.
except for that one episode where she took up the camera.
Luigi took up the entire camera.
Right.
Good kitty.
Oh, poor
anyway, sorry.
But we are talking about Nidalee, so it helps.
It works out.
Yeah, it does. Rek'Sai, change. Needed change. I actually, on Chira Jaden, he told me to go play.
How overtuned was Rek'Sai in the top lane?
Holy buckets of everything. Rek'Sai did a lot of damage in the top lane. Like, her all-in at level 2 was crazy. She wasn't going to kill you without Ignite, but she was going to force you out of lane. Yeah. And her all-in at level 3 and 4 was even better than it was at level 2.
The damage was just... She was one of those champions where if you got in a 1v1 situation with her and you tried to commit, you were probably going to get murdered by Rek'Sai. Like, the damage was ridiculous. And then if you decided to back off, by that time, probably build up full rage and she just smacks you with true damage while you're on your way out. And if she has a tunnel up, she's going to follow and knock you up and then murder you. So, like...
And she's freaking tanky, and she can get away from you. It was just like...
And my favorite thing, if you're playing her, I mean, she was great out of the jungle, just had tons of map pressure because she could be anywhere that she had tunnels, and if you had tunnels up in your jungle, that was cool. But if you're playing her top 2, you could just teleport bot, and as long as you left one tunnel in the top lane, you could just immediately go back to top lane. Like you get 2 teleports.
Sorry, holy shit, my dog is not happy right
This is the
now.
animal
today.
Wait, I need somebody to talk about Rek'Sai, what she does. I'm gonna go beat a dog, and I apologize for MP3 listeners.
All right, well, here are the numbers. Queen's Wrath, her Q, base damage 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. It has been reduced slightly, scaling more as you rank it up. 15, 25, 35, 45, 55. So eventually it loses 20 damage on the Q. And this compounds with her W nerf, which base damage, what is it? Oh, wow. That's also scaling down. It's 60, 110, 160, 210, 260 is what it was. Now it's 40 damage at rank 1, so 20 less damage when you unburrow on somebody. And then it just gets worse from there. 80, 120, 160, 200 from 260 at max rank. So you're losing 60 damage on your unburrow. However, they are adding, you can knock them up slightly faster now because the enemy knock-up immunity, 10 seconds at all ranks. Now when you rank it, it reduces it slightly. So it goes from 10, 9.5, 9, 8.5, 8. So it goes down to 8-second knock-up immunity. So you get 2, that's actually pretty significant.
What the ability order was for top lane Rek'Sai, since the damage on Q at level 1 is pretty much the same.
Yeah, no, it's you would max Q still. It would be one of those situations where you would just max Q.
But could you still force me out of lane at level 2? Or level 3
right
or
now, what with the current changes?
Yeah,
probably at level 2. But now it's not going to be one of those things that like, oh, at level 9, I like. The thing is with these Q changes, you have to look at it. Yeah, it dropped 20 damage from max rank. But that's 20 damage on 3 charges. Like, that's a lot less damage. And if you're maxing Q first, like, it's going to be... It's still going to be good early, but it's not going to be nearly as overwhelming as it was because every time... The Q cooldown is pretty short, and you're using it all the time. I mean, it's on a ridiculously short cooldown once you have some attack speed. You're not going to get into a situation where you just immediately Q, and you're effectively losing... a ton of damage, like 60 something
base
damage.
Yeah,
through every trade. So, I mean, if you traded with Q 3 times in lane, that's like 300 less damage they're taking.
So 9 times in lane because it was 3 auto attacks.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a significant amount of damage less to potentially like keep you from forcing somebody out. Early, it's still going to be pretty good, like level 2, level 3.
Well, it's also the burrow base damage because you could easily just burrow up on top of somebody.
Well, that was the other thing too. The W unburrow damage was surprising. It was.
Well, you're looking at it. It was 60, 110, 160, 210, 260, 40, 80, 120, 160, 200.
Right. Eventually, lose 60 damage at max rank on it. So.
One of the first things Adam asked was, "What do you level second, W or E?" And I was just like, just back and forth. Just mix it up, whatever.
I think I leveled E second.
It's all good.
Well, let's move on. Sejuani Flail the Northern Winds. Her W fixed a bug where Flail of the Northern Winds was dealing a lot of bonus damage to structures. We won't tell you how much, but it was a lot. People are like, oh my god, it's a nerf. Yeah, it's a nerf to a bug fix.
Yeah, I didn't notice it because I would use W to do more damage when on the initial attack to the structure. But I guess
always use it as an auto attack reset to get that extra hit off on a turret. Like I noticed
inhibitors though.
No, yeah, but I definitely noticed something about that W damage at certain points because it
would chunk hard.
Yeah, I mean, it necessarily... No, and it's not like a Krug's smite smack a turret, but it was a decent amount.
So it's bug fixed, so don't
Syndrome change. Scatter the weak stun collision has been widened to slightly feel less clunky. Just so this player...
So they dialed that nerf back a little bit.
Yeah, we can move on from that. Not a big deal. Zed champion changes. The base attack speed has been decreased to 0.644 from 0.658. His attack speed growth stat has been changed from 3.1 to 2.1, so he gains less attack speed at every level. Big change for split pushing. Big change for split pushing Zed. Not so much for burst Zed, which most people probably played him as, but I you know what? to me, this is like one of those pro level changes where you can see those extra auto attacks in the middle of R-ing somebody because you had the proper position. Or I say pro level. When I say pro, I also mean very high ranked platinum and diamond and higher level changes where anybody who was playing Zed before that and got ahead is going to still get you ahead because you were just doing your damage and walking out.
Yeah, this nerf, regardless of this nerf, ADCs, please buy QSS when there's a Zed.
Well, yeah, the thing was he could wave clear and he could duel and he could just destroy turrets. Like, it was a lot all at once. So
yeah, brings him back into, I guess, his identity.
I can still see Zed eating more changes after this later. Like, I know they're trying to keep him so he's competitive, but Zed is one of those champions, unless he gets a change in his kit somewhere and the way his kit works, is that he's going to always be banner pick.
Change the animation on his /laugh. That's what's OP.
I still think that, like, especially in solo queue, well, actually, especially in like Fizz, where you have a lot more structure around it and things like that, I still think that Fizz was always a better choice because Zhonya's is such a powerful counterplay to Zed that it's ridiculous. You can just Zhonya's his entire ult damage. And then, of course, it's not back up. So, I don't know. I have always personally thought that Fizz was just a better pick than Zed was. You could also,
from a marksman perspective, use QSS more effectively against Zed than you could Fizz.
Yeah. Yeah, I always thought that Fizz was a little bit better. I mean, Zed still has his place, and Zed still has, a lot of damage potential and things like that. But when you know how to counterplay him, those single items that are able to so capably just counterplay him are crazy.
Right. You can counterplay him with items, which kind of sucks when you're playing the Zed.
Well, let's talk about the biggest change that people have been messaging us about.
Jungle items.
That is jungle items.
Wait,
now,
what about Tristana? We didn't talk about Tristana.
We didn't talk about Tristana at all.
I've been waiting this whole time to talk about Tristana.
Punch noticed.
I didn't mean to skip Tristana. I didn't mean to skip her. It was I jumped down into the patch. We are going to swing back around to Tristana after the jungle items since we're already here talking about jungle items. We have time. We're going to get right back to Tristana. I promise. Okay. It's going to be on this show. Jungle items have had a change. Again. Yeah.
Jungle again.
No one cares about ADCs. That's all it is. All tier 2 jungle items have been increased by 100 gold. All tier 2 jungle items have been increased by 100 gold. They are now 450 gold from 350. All tier 3 jungle enchantments have been reduced by 100 gold. So it's cost you 100 more gold or one more camp to get that tier 3 jungle item.
Right. Do one more camp before you go back. That's all it amounts to for me.
Well, I mean, this is going to be the difference too between going back, getting that jungle item, and buying 3-ish pots, which you can continue to, gank multiple times or farm without ever really worrying about anything. So you might have to back one more time in your jungling clear than you would otherwise.
This changes competitive more than it changes solo queue, in that right now you had the choice to go directly back after 3 camps and get your jungle item and be slightly ahead with the jungle item, or you had the option to clear one more camp and go back and get a ward and potions, so you could potentially be more powerful for the team. That was the change. It's a ward. This is the difference between getting a ward and not.
And not even necessarily, like, there are some junglers that swear by not getting that extra ward early and getting those potions, because those potions are the difference between getting an extra gank off in the early game. And that can, in many cases, be the difference between a lane. Like, if you can affect a lane that early, that might be all that's needed to sway it for the foreseeable future, to make sure you can prop a laner up before the enemy catches up or hits a power spike or something else. Don't get me wrong, wards make a huge difference. If you're able to get like a pink ward in the enemy jungle deep behind their red buff or something like that, that could be just as awesome. But honestly, what I see this being the biggest difference is, instead of going back and getting potions and a ward or whatever with your jungling item, now you're going to go back and pick up rangers, so you'll eventually swap from Rangers to something else.
But does this make this harder for some junglers that had to go back after 3 camps? Does this start to push some junglers out of contention that were encroaching on play in solo queue because they couldn't? Now this jungler, after 3, every jungler out there with 2 potions could do 3 camps. Now there's some junglers out there, maybe Sejuani, for example, that couldn't do 3 camp or can't do 4 camps without the extra potions. Malachi, for example, he might have a problem doing that 4th camp without those extra potions. Like, this hurts a lot of those tanky, slow champions.
Potentially, yes. The other flip side of this is if you switch to like if you switch to the 3rd mastery tree for the support mastery and you pick up that little extra gold early and you're on those tanky champs, you can just get the 3 potions anyway and roll through. So like there are ways to get around that exact issue. It's just most people don't do that. So like
that's what I'm saying. Like, if most people don't do it, that means that champion is going to be favored anymore because those champions that needed to go back into that 3rd champ can't go back anymore, or they can, but they're going to be they're going to be a minute or 2 behind.
It's definitely going to slow it down.
It should slow them down. I'm going to have to play around with this. Like, I mean, once they put the changes in, it's in. But I'm going to have to mess with this because it's definitely going to affect certain junglers way more than others.
Example, Wukong maybe.
Well, Wukong's already having a really rough time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This makes it even harder.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like Mumu and Mumu not so much. Sejuani is kind of
the only gripe I have is that like the thing that this is hurting more than anybody are the people that need to go back and get that Rangers early regardless. So the people who didn't have any issue rolling through the jungle, they're going to be able to go back and get their stalkers and go affect lanes or whatever. The people who are most affected by this and are picking up that Rangers for the sustain,
the farming junglers.
Yeah, they're gonna have a little bit more of an issue with this because now if you have to go back and you are one of those like power clear junglers that doesn't need Rangers but you still pick up Rangers for another camp or whatever, you can go back after 4 camps, no problem, pick up that Rangers, whereas you only clear 3 camps, you can't necessarily afford that jungle item. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't cleared those 3 camps yet, you probably need that Rangers more than the guy who can clear 4.
Well, this change makes me internally giggle and now outwardly giggle because I think there's a lot of people that look at this and go, this isn't that bad. And then you start thinking about all the champions that are actually affected by 100 gold. And
it changes.
Go ahead.
Changes stuff crazy early.
The thing that got me the most about this is their explanation for thus far jungle items have gotten a little bit snowbally, particularly for those who can snag a few kills on an early invade to get their upgraded smite before camps have even spawned. In my opinion, if you pull off an invade so well to get a few kills, first of all, you're going to be able to afford the jungle item anyway, and second of all, you should be able to snowball. Like, you should be rewarded for pulling off an invade that successfully.
How often do you get a double off of an early invade?
Almost
never.
You
would need the first blood or an assist off the first blood and another kill.
Clearly they believe this isn't like that is an issue, but
I know.
I'm just saying from all the games that I've been playing recently, I'm not seeing early invades.
I think we've all said in another game that was there's no reason to early invade anymore unless you can 100% pick up that kill or you can catch somebody out with like a blitz grab or something crazy. Because if you can't put the jungler behind because he's got to find a way to get back in here with Rangers.
Well, and the other thing is if you do just manage to put one jungler behind, but the other jungler is able to just keep rolling really quickly and they can clear those camps faster, they do get a decent advantage just from money and being able to influence the map. So it's like, it's one of those, there isn't really a huge reason to invade unless you can do something because it's not worth losing all the money that you're getting anyway and the XP since the early jungle's pretty hard for a lot of junglers.
Well, since we have moved over the hour mark, we are going to talk about Tristana. That's what I'm moving into. I'm going to let you guys know we are going to circle back around to this jungle talk in an episode or two as we've had time to play with it and watch other videos and really figure out the changes. But you've heard our initial thoughts on that.
So Punch, you have the floor.
You are up on the floor. I'm going to roll through every Tristana change first, and then you can talk about you can tell us what you think about Tristana. So,
sounds good.
Tristana has been significantly changed. The primary changes coming to how her W and E interact, but there are also other passive changes such as her attack speed growth. So we'll start at the beginning. Her attack speed growth stat has been decreased significantly. It is from 2.5 to 1.5, so she no longer attacks as quickly as she used to on a level basis. The base armor has been decreased to 22, so she's a little squishier. Her base health has been decreased to 542.76, so she is significantly squishier in the early game than she was. The base health before was 555 or 552.76.
However, her character model is more, I guess, appealing.
Huge buff to the character model.
Yeah.
Huge buff.
Yeah. So they take away from champion power and they add it to that, the star power.
Passive, draw a bead. Her range per level has been decreased, so she no longer gains the significant amount of range she gained over the game. It is from 9 to 7 range, number of Teemos. Rapid Fire, unchanged completely. They wanted you to know that in the patch notes. Rocket Jump. Rocket Jump now gains 20% increased damage for each stack of explosive charge, or E, on the target. This goes up to 100% for base charge plus 4 stacks. So the base damage has been significantly increased early and then leveled off into the late game. It used to be 7115 all the way up to 250. It is now 8105 all the way up to 180. So more early game damage, less late game. And the ability power ratio has been decreased to 0.5. So sorry, AP Tristana.
AP Tristana, see ya.
Yeah, good riddance.
You're gone. Passive, the E explosive charge. Passive, I fucked up that sentence. Completely unchanged. Still blows up shit when you blow it up. Active ability, Tristana throws a grenade at the target enemy. After 4 seconds, the charge explodes and deals area effect physical damage. Stacking charges. Every basic attacks against a target with explosive charge adds an additional stack that increases explosive charge final damage by 25%, stacking up to 4 times. So it's 100% damage. After 4 attacks, you get plus 100% damage. If the target already has 4 stacks and is attacked, the explosive charge will detonate immediately. So after 5 attacks, you detonate the 4 charges that she has on it. So it takes 5 attacks to detonate the damage of E. So hit somebody with E, attack 5 times, they explode. Using Rocket Jump into a target will immediately use the maximum explosive charge stacks. Or excuse me, I fucked up the sentence.
Detonate it instead of.
We'll detonate it. We'll immediately detonate the maximum stacks that it could have. So it's a change so that if you E somebody and jump in, you're getting the maximum amount of damage, but you are now on top of the champion rather than
if they have the maximum charge stacks on them.
Right. It's just an alternate way to detonate the stacks.
Right.
Yep.
Explosive charge is castable on towers and has a larger explosive radius than on a unit. Pretty big change there. And damage is 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. That's the base. Active ratio is 0.5, 0.6, 0.85, 0.95, 1.10 attack damage plus 5.0 ability power. So E gains a significant amount of damage over the game. And Buster Shot has had the ability power ratio changed to 1.0. So pretty much AP Tristana is going the way of the birds, and AD Tristana is the way to go. She has AD ratios now.
Well, she has 1. Okay, so the crux of what they're trying to do here is they're trying to make Tristana less of a late game hyper carry and give her some more power in the mid and early game. The first reason, or the first way they reduce her late game power is the attack speed growth stat reduction. That is a huge reduction. Right now, after this change, her bonus attack speed at level 18 is 27%, which is the second lowest in the game amongst marksmen compared to the highest amount you can get, which is 68% bonus attack speed on Ashe, Vayne, and Caitlyn. The lowest person with bonus attack speed is Jinx at 17%, but she always has minigun active, so she doesn't really count. So for all intents and purposes, Tristana has the lowest scaling attack speed now. She's actually pretty even with Sivir, so if you want to compare her to someone that's in the game now, think about Sivir late game and how her base attack speed is, and that's how Tristana should feel. But the power she gains back is from explosive charge. The explosive charge damage early on is huge, considering you get the 4 stacks. So let's, for example, say you get a BF sword in your first back, and you've got a Doran's blade. That would be 86 damage. And considering masteries and runes, we'll just round that out at even 100 damage. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the base damage on your explosive charge without stacking it at all would be the, let me find it here, 100 damage base, physical damage, plus your 100 damage from...
At max rank or at level 1?
Hold on. This looks different from what's on the wiki. But, yeah, I'm talking about a max rank. Okay. So this would be at level 7. So you'll have 100 physical damage plus 110 bonus AD, 110% of your bonus AD. So you'll have about 100 damage from the base ability plus 100 damage from your items, which at 1.1% AD would be 110. So you do 210% base damage. Big whoop, right? When you have 4 stacks, that goes up to 200 base damage plus 220% of your bonus AD, which would be 420 damage at level 7. Keep in mind, the base damage on her R is unaltered. So that's another 300 damage.
So you can burst somebody for 1,000 damage if you get all 5 stacks.
And if you jump on the person when they have 4 stacks up, that's 180 times 2, which is another 360 damage. So you're doing over 1,000 damage at level 7. With
so she all-in executes you by throwing an E and then
she is an all-in champion right now, by all means.
Yeah, this totally changes how this champion was played.
In a way, this champion just became I'm gonna have really ridiculous long range and kind of kite you by moving and then like engage or jump away if somebody gets close, so I can continue to do that. To be like, I'm going to stay in the same area, and we're going to go toe-to-toe. And if you can't kill me in the time it takes me to get 5 auto attacks off on you, I'm going to blow your ass away.
Yeah, think of the damage those 5 auto attacks do anyway.
Yeah.
So with her now, obviously it's going to take some time for people to get used to this change. Tristana mains should pick it up fairly quickly, I would think, or at least ADC mains. Does she have a place in the meta against Graves? Does she have a place in the meta? Right now we're seeing Graves, Sivir, and Corki. Does she have a place in the meta against those all-in champions? It seems like we're seeing very heavy upfront burst damage ADCs rather than hyper carries at this point.
It depends on if Sivir's shield can actually block the explosion on explosive charge, because I would think that'd be fairly telegraphed, especially if you can see her jumping in.
Yeah,
you should be able to block that easily.
Or will it block the W hit and then
it might block the W.
But this has zoning capabilities against somebody with Graves, because if you can get a couple auto attacks off, assuming the passive lasts for a couple seconds.
All of Graves' damage is up front.
Sure.
So if he's got an aggressive support that initiates on you, then he can just blow all his damage, and then you have to back out before you can get the 4 stacks on him.
Right.
Well, imagine the opposite. Imagine a level 2 with Tristana where you have a Leona on your side. You go in, the Leona goes in stunned.
She's standing still.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You get like 2 autos off in the time that they're stunned. If they don't back off, by the time you get those next couple autos off, they're losing that trade.
I'm just thinking about
her level 2 potential just got. It's almost like a Twitch
her
where
all-in potential, yeah.
Her and like that E seems like nothing until you get like if you don't notice you have those stacks on you and they build up. That's a huge amount of damage.
Keep in mind your AD ratio on E improves per level, so it's not going to be that powerful early on. Like Lucian's
no, but she's still right
the AD
though.
ratio increases over time with each point into it.
Right, no, but she's still right, though, with here the all in 2, because you're still at the count Leona's passive in that, where if Leona is stacking her passive...
Leona Tristana would be a great all-in lane.
Totally a lot of damage, yeah. Leona, Alistar, anybody that can do a stun, even right now, Leona, Alistar, or rather before 5.2, Leona and Alistar was still a great all-in lane in solo queue. The people knew what they were doing because of the W damage did a lot. Just base damage was a lot. So if you can imagine a couple auto attacks with some extra attack speed. Now, with these changes, because she's losing attack speed at the end game, and obviously she's not an end game carry, are you going to supplement her runes at all to add attack speed?
I'm already using 3 attack speed quints, and I think I'm going to stick with that. I'm not going to start sacrificing attack damage in my reds for attack speed. Okay. But I wanted to bring up the late game because with the reduction in range per level, her max range at level 18 is 669, which is still more than Kate. And
Kate 675.
They said 669. I thought somewhere here.
It's right around Kate. Either way,
all I want to know,
really close to Kate.
All I want to know is, can she still shoot Baron from outside of Baron Pit behind the wall?
Since Kate can, Tristana can.
Yeah.
Okay,
and Tristana
that's all I need to know.
Her Q attack speed bonus, and while that's active, that's a huge amount of attack speed. I think she's still going to have a large amount of power late, so I'm interested to see if...
Just 650, by the way.
What was that? Caitlin's attack speed? 650.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, and part of the reason Caitlyn was so good late is because of her range. I mean, ignoring her headshot passive, just the fact that she is so safe at late game when she's doing a ton of damage, that's part of the reason what makes her so good when she has 6 items. And Tristana's going to be the same way. If she's really safe with that huge amount of range and her teammates can protect her, then...
And E still... The range on E still increases with your passive, right?
They didn't say that changed.
No, yeah. So I would assume that E still increases.
I think so.
Which I think it would have to, because it would be like the old Tristana, where it's just auto attack based. If your abilities don't do anything, because you can't get in range.
Right.
Well, you don't use the E until you all in anyway.
Well, you use E early, so you can start stacking the
you can't
passive
detonate the charges.
Yeah.
So you don't want to detonate them before you jump in.
Well, you don't have to jump. E is the one that adds the charges.
Right, if you don't want to all in it, yeah.
You E, that starts stacking the charges. W detonates them early if you jump in, or at 4 to 5.
It starts at 543, then 7 times Tristana's level to E.
What were you going to say, Punch?
It scales up.
Hold on, Punch looks like he...
Well, I wanted to go on a separate topic, so if there's more to add to the E, please continue, and then I'll jump in afterwards.
All I wanted to say is, if I play this champion and I have a Leona on my team and we are able to smack somebody and they flash away, I'm flashing right along with them the W on them every time.
Yeah.
I don't care what the situation is. I don't care if I have 10 health. I'm going hard, friends.
All right, next topic, go for it.
So one of the things I was really interested about with Tristana when I heard about the cosmetic rework is I wanted to know if they made her W less clunky, because the worst thing about Tristana by far for me was the clunkiness of her W.
She felt like a brick.
The cast time it had and how slow it was and how you could get stunned out of mid-air during your jump. I thought that was ridiculous. So I wanted to practice that before the podcast today, but Days wanted to wait until we're on the call, and then we got on the call too late, so I never got to test it. But I did join a custom game and try out W, and it seems like W still has the same delay on cast, which makes me think that she's probably can still get picked out of midair with a thresh hook. But,
I'm sure. It's like Corki. They're the same.
Because it's actually, I mean, it's part of the balance for the ability as well, since now it does a ton of damage, and it has the reset capabilities, and it's the longest range mobility ability that any marksman has.
Right. Well, we will go test it out. What we're going to do is... That actually wraps up 5.2. We were able to make it through a patch the first time, and God knows how long in one episode.
We also stayed late, though. So.
Well, 20 minutes late. No one's going to complain about it.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, we made the time to finish this one rather than say...
I'm glad we did.
We will... then that ends 5.2 discussion. Monday, we will definitely talk about the games we played last week. Sorry that 5.2 came out. You guys didn't hear it. I'm salty. Fuck you all. We're going to talk about it on Monday, and then we will talk about Top Line Annie on Wednesday. So I'll give you guys a little bit of a heads up of some of the topics that are coming up. That is episode number 230 of the Trinity Force Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for supporting us. Please check us out at trinityforcepodcast.com if you're a first-time listener. We've had a lot of you recently, thanks to Foxdrop. We appreciate you coming on here. We hope you enjoy our analysis. Again, you can check us out at trinityforcepodcast.com or on T-Force Network on Reddit. So that is it for episode 230, guys. We will see you all on Monday. Have a good night.
See you.
Good night.